Not every gift is love. Some gifts come with something attached, not visible at first, not obvious in the moment, but hidden underneath. And if you don't see it early, you can walk straight into a situation that slowly takes away your freedom, your voice, and your control. It doesn't start as a problem. It starts small. She gives you something, helps you, supports you, does something that feels generous. You accept it without thinking too much about it. Why wouldn't you? It looks like care. It feels like kindness. But over time, something begins to change. Expectations start showing up. Pressure starts building. You begin to feel like you owe something in return, even when you never agreed to anything. And that's where the trap begins. Because now it's no longer just a gift, it becomes leverage. A lot of men don't realize this until it's too late. They accept everything at the beginning without questioning the intention behind it. They assume that every gesture is genuine, and because of that, they place themselves in situations where they slowly lose control without even noticing it. Now, understand this clearly. This is not about rejecting kindness. This is about understanding intention. Because there is a difference between a genuine gift and a strategic one. One comes without expectation. The other comes with a hidden purpose. And if you don't know how to tell the difference, you can be manipulated without even realizing it. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 types of gifts you must be careful about accepting from any woman. Not because all women are the same, but because certain patterns repeat, and if you don't recognize them, you can fall into them. These are not obvious things. They are subtle, they look normal, but they can change your entire position if you're not aware. So, pay attention to this, because once you understand it, you will never look at gifts the same way again. The first type of gift you must be careful with is a gift that comes with conditions. It doesn't look like a condition at the beginning. She gives you something, helps you, supports you in a moment when you need it, and everything feels normal. There is no pressure, no demand, no agreement. It feels like she is just being kind, but the condition shows up later, not immediately, at the moment when she wants something from you. That is when you start hearing things like, "Remember what I did for you?" Or, "I was there for you when you needed help," or, "After everything I've done, you can't do this one thing for me?" That is not a gift anymore. That is a transaction, and you didn't agree to it. This is how manipulation works. It starts with something positive, something that lowers your guard. You accept it without thinking because it feels harmless. But once you accept it, it creates a sense of obligation, even if it was never clearly stated. And that obligation becomes control. Now, you feel pressure to respond, to give back, to adjust your decisions based on what she has already done, even when what she is asking goes against your principles. You hesitate because you feel like you owe her. That is the trap. Another problem is that this pattern repeats. The more you accept, the more it grows. Each gift adds another layer of expectation. Each favor becomes another reason she can use later. Before you realize it, your decisions are no longer based on what you want. They are based on what you feel obligated to do. That is how you lose control slowly. The key thing you need to understand is this. A real gift does not come back to you as a reminder. A real gift does not return as pressure. A real gift does not create debt. So you need to pay attention, not just to what is given, but to what follows after. Because the moment a gift is used as a reason to control you, it was never a gift in the first place. The second type of gift you need to be careful with is an expensive gift that comes too early. Timing matters. When you're just getting to know someone and suddenly there are big gestures, costly items, or heavy financial support, you need to pause and think. Because at that stage, nothing is supposed to be that deep yet. But it feels good. It looks like generosity. It can even feel like you've met someone who truly values you. That's why it's dangerous. Because instead of building the connection step by step, everything jumps forward too quickly. The balance is gone before it even starts. One person is giving more than the situation requires, and that creates pressure. Now you feel it. You start asking yourself, how do I match this? Or what is expected from me now? Even if she doesn't say anything directly, the weight is there. And once that weight is there, your decisions are no longer free. They are influenced. This is how emotional positioning works. By giving something valuable early, she shifts the dynamic. You are no longer on equal ground. You are now in a position where you feel like you have received something significant, and that feeling can change how you behave. You might tolerate things you wouldn't normally tolerate. You might stay in situations longer than you should. You might even ignore red flags because you don't want to seem ungrateful. That is how control starts. Another issue is that early expensive gifts can create an illusion of connection. It makes things feel deeper than they actually are. You start thinking the bond is stronger because the gesture is bigger. But real connection is not built through sudden intensity. It is built through consistency over time. When something skips that process, it often leads to imbalance. So, the rule is simple. If something feels too much, too soon, take a step back. You don't need to reject kindness, but you need to understand timing. Because when value is introduced before connection is built, it changes the foundation, and once the foundation is off, everything that follows becomes unstable. The third type of gift you must be careful with is a gift that is used to silence you. At the beginning, it doesn't look like that. She gives you something, supports you, does something that feels meaningful. Everything seems normal. There is no tension, no argument, no pressure. But the moment you try to speak up, something changes. You express a concern, you point out something that doesn't feel right, or you try to set a boundary. Instead of addressing what you said, she brings up what she has done for you. After everything I've given you, after all I've done for you, you're still saying this? That is where the gift becomes a tool. Because now your voice is no longer free. Instead of discussing the issue, you are pushed into a position where you feel guilty for even speaking. The focus shifts from the problem to what she has given you, and that is how silence is created. You start holding back. You think twice before saying anything. You avoid conversations that matter because you already know how it will end. That is control. Another problem is how it affects your confidence. When your voice is constantly shut down like that, you begin to question yourself. You start wondering if you are wrong for speaking up, even when you are not. That slowly weakens your position. Because now, you are no longer expressing yourself clearly. You are adjusting to avoid conflict. And once you reach that point, you are not in control anymore. The relationship becomes one-sided. Now, understand this clearly. No gift should ever take away your ability to speak. No gift should ever be used to shut you down. No gift should make you feel like your opinion no longer matters. Because the moment that happens, it is no longer a gift. It becomes leverage. So, you need to pay attention to patterns. If every time you speak, you are reminded of what you received, that is not appreciation, that is control. And once control replaces communication, the connection is no longer healthy. The fourth type of gift you must be careful with is a gift that creates dependence. This one is more dangerous because it doesn't feel like a problem at the beginning. She helps you, she supports you, she steps in and solves things you didn't even ask her to solve. It could be financial help, connections, opportunities, or taking responsibility for things in your life that you normally handle yourself. At first, it feels like support. It feels like you have someone who genuinely cares. But over time, something starts to change. You begin to rely on it. You become comfortable. You stop pushing yourself the way you used to. And slowly, without noticing, your independence starts to fade. That is where the problem begins. Because once you depend on something, you become vulnerable to losing it. And when she knows you depend on it, the dynamic shifts. Now, she has influence. Not because she said it directly, but because the situation allows it. During disagreements, it can show up in subtle ways. If it wasn't for me, remember who helped you. You know what I've done for you. Even if it's not said directly, the awareness is there. You feel it. And because you feel it, you start adjusting your behavior. You hesitate to walk away. You hesitate to stand firm. You hesitate to make decisions that could disrupt what you've come to rely on. That is how control grows. Another problem is that dependence changes your mindset. You stop thinking like someone who is building his own life, and you start thinking like someone who is maintaining what has been given to him. That shift reduces your drive. It reduces your focus, and over time, it reduces your value. Now understand this clearly. Support is good, but dependence is dangerous. A healthy relationship supports your growth. It does not replace your effort. It does not take over your responsibilities, and it does not make you feel like you cannot function without it. So, the rule is simple. Never accept anything that makes you dependent, because the moment you rely on it, you give away your control. And once control is gone, everything else starts to follow. The fifth type of gift you must be careful with is a gift that weakens you. This one is subtle. It doesn't come with pressure. It doesn't come with reminders, and it doesn't look like control. In fact, it feels comfortable. It feels easy. It feels like everything is working in your favor. That's why most men don't see it. She makes things easier for you. She handles situations before you even think about them. She removes obstacles from your path. She steps in so you don't have to struggle. So you don't have to push. So you don't have to figure things out on your own. At first, it feels like support. But over time, something begins to change. You stop doing certain things for yourself. You stop thinking as sharply as you used to. You stop pushing as hard as you used to. Because now you don't have to. That is where the danger is. Not because she is doing something wrong, but because you are becoming comfortable in a way that reduces your strength. You begin to lose discipline. You begin to lose your edge. And once that edge is gone, it affects everything else. Your mindset changes. Your focus drops. Your drive becomes weaker. And slowly, you become a different version of yourself. A version that depends on ease instead of effort. Now understand this clearly. Growth comes from pressure. It comes from solving your own problems. It comes from handling your own responsibilities. When those things are removed, even in a positive way, you lose the very process that builds you. Another problem is that this kind of comfort is hard to leave because it feels good, it feels safe, it feels convenient. But what feels good in the moment can weaken you over time. So the rule is simple. Do not accept anything that replaces your effort. Do not accept anything that removes your discipline. Because once you lose that, you don't just lose control, you lose yourself. And that is something no gift is worth. At this point, you should see the pattern clearly. The problem is not the gift itself. The problem is what comes with it and what it turns into over time. Something that looks positive at the beginning can slowly shift into something that limits you if you are not paying attention. That's where most men get it wrong. They focus only on what they receive in the moment. They don't think about what it creates later. They don't look at the long-term effect. And because of that, they walk into situations that slowly change their position without realizing it. You need to start thinking differently. Instead of asking, what am I getting from this? You should be asking, what does this lead to? That one question changes how you see everything. If a gift creates pressure, it is not harmless. If a gift creates expectation, it is not neutral. If a gift changes your behavior, your decisions, or your independence, then it is not just a gift. It is influence. Another thing you need to understand is intention. Not every situation is negative. Not every woman is trying to control you, but patterns matter more than isolated moments. If something keeps repeating, if it shows up again and again in different forms, then you need to take it seriously because patterns reveal direction, and direction tells you where things are going. You also need to pay attention to how you feel after accepting something. If you feel free, respected, and unchanged, then it is likely genuine. But if you feel pressure, obligation, or hesitation, then something is off. That feeling is not random. It is a signal. Ignoring it is what creates problems later. So the goal is not to reject everything. The goal is to understand what you are accepting. Because once you become aware of these patterns, you stop walking into situations blindly. You start making decisions with clarity. And that is what keeps you in control. Now that you understand what to avoid, the next step is knowing how to move correctly. Because this is not about rejecting everything or becoming closed off. It is about being aware and making controlled decisions. The first thing you need to do is observe before you accept. Not everything needs an immediate response. When something is offered, take a moment. Look at the situation, the timing, and the pattern behind it. Ask yourself what it creates, not just what it gives you. That pause alone puts you in control. The second thing is to maintain your independence at all times. No matter what you receive, your life should still move based on your own effort. Your goals, your responsibilities, and your direction should remain yours. Nothing should replace that. Because the moment something replaces your effort, you start losing your position. Another important thing is to keep your standards clear. If something comes with pressure, expectation, or conditions, you need to recognize it immediately. You don't need long discussions. You don't need to explain yourself repeatedly. You just need to know what you accept and what you don't. Clarity removes confusion. You also need to stay consistent in your behavior. Do not change how you act based on what you receive. Do not adjust your decisions just because something has been given to you. If you start making decisions out of obligation instead of choice, you lose control of your direction. Consistency protects your position. Another key point is to value your own effort. Anything you build yourself carries more strength than anything that is handed to you. When you rely on your own work, your own decisions, and your own discipline, you become harder to control. That is what gives you stability. So, the focus is simple. Stay aware, stay independent, stay consistent. Because when you move like that, no situation can slowly take control over you. You remain in charge of your decisions. And that is what separates a man who gets trapped from a man who stays free. This is the part most men overlook. These situations don't destroy you instantly. They don't show up as a clear problem from the beginning. That's why they are dangerous. Everything starts small. A simple favor, a helpful gesture, something that feels normal and harmless. You accept it without thinking too much about it. There's no pressure at that moment, no sign that anything is wrong. In fact, it can even feel like things are going in your favor. But over time, the pattern builds. What was once a small action becomes a repeated behavior. What felt optional starts to feel expected, and what looked like support begins to shape your decisions. That's how it grows, not suddenly, but gradually. And because it happens slowly, you don't notice the shift. You adjust little by little. You compromise here and there. You allow certain things because they don't seem serious in the moment, until one day you realize your position has changed. You are no longer making decisions freely. You are thinking about what you might lose. You are considering what has been given to you. You are adjusting your behavior to maintain something instead of choosing what is right for you. That is when you are already inside the situation. And at that point, it becomes harder to step out. Because now there is something attached, there is something to lose. There is something influencing your choices. This is why awareness has to come early. You cannot wait until things become obvious. By then, the pattern is already established. You have already adapted to it, and breaking out of it requires more effort than avoiding it in the first place. So, the rule is simple. Pay attention from the beginning. Look at patterns, not just moments. Notice how things evolve over time, because what looks harmless at the start can turn into something that controls your decisions later. And once that control is in place, it is not easy to remove. At the end of everything, it comes down to one simple principle. Not everything that looks like a blessing is actually good for you. That is the mistake many men make. They see something positive on the surface and accept it immediately without thinking about what it leads to. They focus on the moment, not the long-term effect. And that is how they lose control, because control is not taken in one move. It is given away in small decisions. One acceptance leads to another, one compromise leads to another, and before you realize it, your choices are no longer fully yours. That is the real danger. It is not about one gift. It is about what that gift creates over time. If something introduces pressure, it will grow. If something creates dependence, it will deepen. If something weakens your discipline, it will affect every area of your life. So, you have to think ahead. You have to look beyond the surface. And you have to be honest with yourself about what you are accepting. This is not about rejecting kindness or avoiding connection. It is about protecting your position. Because once you lose your position, it is difficult to rebuild it. Respect drops. Control shifts, and everything becomes harder to manage. That is why awareness is important from the beginning. You don't wait until things go wrong before you start thinking. You stay aware from the start so you don't enter situations that slowly limit you. The rule is simple. If something comes with pressure, question it. If something creates obligation, step back. If something changes your independence, be careful. Because once your independence is affected, everything else follows. So, move with clarity, accept what is genuine, reject what comes with hidden weight, and always stay in control of your own direction. Because at the end of the day, what you allow into your life determines what controls your life. Now drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this opened your eyes, subscribe for more.